Good evening and hi everyone. Welcome to day 106 of my public creative journal. Now every day I document what I'm learning as I build my voice, my music, and my creative life, with the ultimate goal of this journey being to perform in an a cappella group. So today I want to fill you in on what the show must go on has to do with learning music. And I can hear you already going, but that kind of, anyway. Today's rehearsal did not begin the way I expected. Normally, when I sit down for rehearsal, I have a workflow that's become really well established in 106 days. I sing, I put all my thoughts down, I have a system that I get feedback from, I learn a little something, I make adjustments, and I repeat the process. Today, the entire support system was not available. And for a few minutes, I actually thought to myself, the surprisingly simple question, can I rehearse today? And I laughed, because of course I can. Millions of singers somehow manage to rehearse every day without my exact collection of hardware, software, anxiety, and of course carefully assembled workflow. The goal was never the workflow. The goal was always the music. So instead of stopping, I actually took an idea that's been growing in another project. Over in Brighton, that's actually a town in England. That's over in Brighter. I've been basically taking the approach that it's better to record a series rather than record, analyze. So instead of singing one take, stopping and thinking and repeating, you get out of the mindset. I decided I was just going to do 4 takes straight in a row. As I did each take, I would jot down what I felt about the take. And after I got through all 4, I went back and did the playback so I could hear it and write down my comments. And pretty much after each 4, I would write a little quick review of the whole set. So Boulevard basically took a page from Brighter. And I don't know how I would have thought to do that a month ago. Mainly because at that point, we really hadn't gotten Brighter off the ground yet. So what surprised me most wasn't the process. It really was the singing, because somewhere along the line, I think I picked up a few experience points. This was another one that I hadn't touched in 4 or 5 days, but the energy stayed together. The higher notes showed up. 4 takes, I sang 16 F4s across those 4 takes, and for the most part, all of them were bang on where they were supposed to be, and that makes me kind of happy. So I think with those experience points, I might have actually nudged into the beginning of the next level, which would be nice. Of course, this does not mean it was perfect. It wasn't. There are still phrases that drift. The bass line wants to come out strong in section 2 until it runs out of a little bit of energy and volume toward the end. So I had been using the metaphor of driving a car and not trying to force the car, but trying to ride and just simply maneuver the car. One of my takes was a little off, to the point where I think I can best describe it as feeling like I'd gotten into the car, driven a little too fast, and discovered I was actually on ice, which honestly was probably a fairly accurate description of that take. By the 4th take, fatigue was definitely settling in. Actually, I wanted to get through it without fatigue, so we could basically say that fatigue and I put up a pretty good fight. I'm pretty sure the final score was Drew 89, Fatigue 84. I mean, I got out on top, but I definitely got beaten up in the process. But that made me realize something. If I ever want to stand on stage just for a half-hour show, let's not even think about an hour show, I've got to be able to sing more than one song 4 times or 4 songs once. I've got to build that up. Long COVID be damned or not, I've got to get my breath support up and better. So somewhere I have to work on that endurance. So I came to the idea that maybe it's not so bad that some of my sessions may end in fatigue because I've got to push myself. I've got to grow. So that might be part of the training. There was one really nice part of the playback that it gave me a little surprise. I mean, it's happened on Be Prepared many times. Boulevard was not a place I was expecting it, and that was, for very few moments, it sounded like I was actually being welcomed in by the group to sing with them. I sort of blended into the back. I felt they thought I might be worthy enough to sort of play around. Now, I'm not talking about the group themselves. They're 4 very admirable people, but this is just the mental, how it sounded placed in the song. It just felt like, just for moments, I was beginning to fit in. It wasn't just me singing through backing vocals. It's a difficult, I really can't figure out how best to put it into words until you hear it yourself. But nothing really changed. Nothing dramatically was there. I mean, having 16 F4s, that's a nice little marker on my gamepad, but that's not a jump of technique or a new stylization or finding things more even. It was a few seconds here and there where it really felt like things were beginning to come together, which is a few seconds more than it has been. So that's, again, the plus. Those little moments. Okay, so I'm caught down the 2-point road here. The little moments, I want to say they're worth chasing, but I never want to use the word chase. I think it's best that I say those little moments you don't have to avoid, and you can treasure them, no matter how small they are, as long as they feel in some way fulfilling of your own journey. Looking back, I really don't think today was about my workflow system or how my process goes or even the design of rehearsals. It was about discovering that the process has already changed me. The coaching that I've gotten, the advice I've gotten from people, the feedback I've gotten, the analysis, none of it disappeared today, because over the past 100 days, little pieces of it have actually become quite a part of me and how I think. So if a tool isn't available, the journey doesn't stop. The journey never stops. It just simply finds another way to keep going forwards. So I have to say, I have a couple of titles in my back pocket. And I knew at some point I was going to use The Show Must Go On. But I thought it would be something very important, very special. And then in thinking about this episode, it was sort of special to say, yes, no matter what happens, the show will go on. You can't just stop, especially if you're already in action in front of an audience. You can't just go, no. And actually, I think I did once, but that was a very bizarre story unto itself. So, it's not that nothing's ever going to go perfectly. I mean, there's always going to be little things that go wrong. It's not that we pretend these problems don't exist, but we remember why we walked out onto the stage in the first place. Once we remember that, we keep going. We keep singing. My son has been learning to drive, and he was very tenuous and very nervous about it early on. But yesterday, when we were driving around doing tons and tons of errands, and he's the one who does most of the driving while he's learning, he looked at me and he said, driving's not actually that bad. It's not that hard. And I looked at him, I said, no, the point of driving is not the actual driving. That's very zen and relaxing. The point is learning how not to freak out when things go wrong. At which point somebody kind of darted in front of us and both of us were like, what the like that. So it's not just singing. It's knowing that what you're doing, you do best when you can put the potential failures or changes or loss of what's going on out of your mind. You get so much further. Anyway, thank you, as always, for spending part of your day with me today. I do, as always, appreciate it. And day 107 tomorrow, which is Saturday, which always means I actually do a lot less because it's the weekend and I spend it with family and do things like that. Hell, I've got a Weird Al Yankovic concert coming up in about 2 weeks. Ooh! Sorry, just excited. Anyway, later.